I was telling you beforehand, we had a wild and crazy year. It's crazy as you go through the thick of it and the day in and the day out. And then you get to the end of the year and you start totaling up some of these numbers and it's wild. The amount of work that we're able to, take care of here at the office with our team, it's really impressive and it's a fun time to celebrate. We do this kind of annual summary of accomplishments, the first team meeting every year. And it's wild. 11 out of 13 teams this year had world record setting numbers and accomplishments. And, there's a lot that happens each and every day here. And it's hard to celebrate in the moment, but when you reflect back, it's a lot of good happens. It's pretty cool.
It's cool, man. It's great. I love how systematic you guys are about reflecting and reporting and informing the team. You said something real quickly there. 11 out of 13 teams had world record. I know you guys call them world records, right? When you have a record year, world record, because you're the biggest. You guys are the class of turnkey rental property investing, right? So if it's your best year, it's everyone's best year. Before we get into those world records, you said 11 out of 13 departments. I think the idea that you have 13 departments as a CEO and you have, you're gonna butt up against 90 employees. What are the 13 when you're thinking about your team? What are the 13 kind of roles over here?
It's wild. It expands every year, right? We do this presentation and summary and it used to be a handful and now it's 13. I mean, it's anything from acquisitions to new construction to property turns to renovations to lots developed from our land development team to sales to repeat client sales to leasing to renewals to doors under management, so forth and so on. I mean, it's just exciting. I mean, there's just a lot of elements to our business now and we're just so grateful for the opportunity to serve and perform and to grow and get better as much as we possibly can. So really cool to be able to take on some new ventures and also continually get better at the ones we've been doing for many years.
All right. So record years, what does that, what does that reflect in the numbers, man? Tell me a little bit. Well, let's first talk about, let's talk about the numbers, man. When you say record year, top line revenue, property sold, run me through the stuff that you got on the top of your head with that.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much that wasn't top line for us. I'm not talking at all, P&L, revenue, income, any of that. I'm talking about production, right? So for me, when we're talking 13 teams, that's the discussion point for us. The only two areas where we did a little bit less this last year than call it, benchmark years in the past were finished new construction homes and finished renovation homes. So production cycle on the construction side was a little slower. A lot of components that, were involved in that. And I think, we're set up for some significant bounce back in a big way in 2022. But those were the two areas where we didn't break world records, if you will, or set our benchmark years.
Got it. And as far as property, so that is construction, right? We talked a lot throughout the year, how there was this glut at City Hall of permits and everything was held back, right? There was also, I think the world knows about supply chain issues at this point. If you haven't heard the word supply chain issues, you haven't turned on a television or read a newspaper.
You're living under a rock, right?
You're living under a rock, or you're watching Nickelodeon. I don't know.
Yeah, true. You're probably a happier person though, in fairness. So
I would assume so. So that is supply, sounds like. Yep. What about actual transactions and revenue and property sold and stuff like that? How'd y'all tell me about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the cool thing for our business is it's always like a bookend, right? You got the acquisition side, which is sourcing the assets and buying. And then you got the back end that's, your sales and service team that's obviously offering the investment opportunity to our clients and selling on the back end. So that's kind of, a very simplistic element. That's the easiest way for us to look at the volume. On the buy side last year, we closed on 992 properties, which is an unbelievable amount. Our acquisitions team, is funny. The last week of the year, they were very upset when it came to fruition and they realized they weren't going to get to 1,000 because they've been tracking it down all year. And what's crazy about that is that our goal beginning of the year was somewhere in the low 600s. I think it was 620 or 630. So, I mean, we not only blew out the goal, the previous, most we'd ever purchased in a calendar year was 734 properties. So, I mean, they destroyed any previous benchmark, but they were upset. They wanted 8 more to be able to say, hey, I got my 1,000 and there it is. So it's insane there. And then on the back end with the sales side of the business, we sold 531 homes, which is over 100 more than we ever have in any calendar year in the past. So another massive accomplishment. I think the previous benchmark number was 421, so 110 more than ever before. So, just a really, really successful year when you look at it as simplistic as buy side and sell side, which is, obviously a big part and the easiest way to look at a real estate business as a whole.
Man, that's really impressive. So the buy side, you outpaced by more than 50% of your projection.
Yeah, we did. Well, we realized so what's interesting is, so we do business planning every year in October, right? So October of 2020, we laid out the projections. And by January of 2021, when we showed up to present to the team, a couple things had changed. And the biggest X factor was the demand for the product. So the sales side had just blown up. And I think it was just like a perfect moment in time where rates were so low, returns were really high, rent numbers were just massively blowing up from an appreciation perspective. So our Q4 of 2020 and our Q1 of 2021, the demand from our existing clients and our new client base was massive, to where we had to kind of shift our expectations on our acquisition side immediately and say, you know what, we had only planned on this. That's not going to cut it though. We need to be able to buy more and immediately. So we had a conversation in late December, early January with our acquisitions team and said, I know we, initially planned on this, but we need to do 150% of that. And that needs to start in the next 30 days. So let's go. So we added a new teammate, we ramped up all efforts, and we got after it. And we set the pace really early in 2021 and obviously carried it through to the end of the year.
So I find that really fascinating, right? Because it's, you guys, you talk about a perfect cocktail of pent-up demand and optimal market conditions. And I also see it as, it's also a long-term thing for JWB, right? So right now you're phrasing it as, it was a perfect moment and all these things had happened, but you guys aren't just buying these things for yourselves. You're going to buy these to then sell them to other people as investments. So how do you, do you think of it as like, it was a perfect moment, or do you think of it as, this is the beginning of a crest of a perfect moment? Like, can you kind of just talk me through that?
Yeah. So I think, fundamentally, I mean, and this, Pablo, you've talked to all of us many times, right? Like we believe in real estate as just a really valuable long-term asset to buy, to hold, to rent, to limit your tax exposure, to, models over models show an appreciation opportunity if you hold it for long enough. I mean, it's, through many real estate cycles. I mean, it's just a matter of, we believe in the value of real estate permanently, right? So it's not a moment in time for us, but I think what we realized is Q4, Q1 of 2020, 2021, it became vogue for the mainstream media. It was the talking point. It was the sexy investment. And therefore the demand that stemmed outside of these walls and outside of like what we, our innate belief in the value of the asset just exploded. So I think it brought so many new investors into the mix that previously had not owned real estate and also saw it as like their moment in time and their crest, if you will, to jump into the mix and in large volumes. So yeah. I think for us, it's a permanent belief, and it's not like a moment in time. But I do think that publicly it was portrayed more so and broadcasted more, in that 6-month span than ever before, and even today, for what it's worth.
Got it. That makes sense. So it's the perfect concoction of market conditions and media conditions.
100%, which matters, right? I mean, that's just the reality. I mean, you're a marketer. I mean, you know the drill. If the media is behind you, it certainly doesn't hurt.
Yeah. The tailwinds of the media are definitely helpful. So the other part that I wanted to poke at there is like, okay, so you guys had to readjust and you had to go full ham and go 50% more. You said you hired one more person. Do you also, are you buying in different zip codes now? Did you change what you're willing to buy? How do you add 50% more inventory to a model that you were already really tight on? Yeah,
you do a lot of different things. So, I mean, I think the first thing is really just to celebrate our acquisitions team. So we have an acquisitions team of 3.
Okay.
3.
Yeah.
So you talk to most like real estate investment companies and they have 20, 30, 50. I mean, it's insane. We have 3 people on our acquisitions team that bought 992 homes. So, I mean, that's unreal. So first things first is they just do a ton of volume, work really fast, really well together, and it's insane. As far as, you know, the opportunity, yeah, I mean, I think you have to do a couple different things. You have to cast a wider net. So to your point, you know, there's certain areas that we're exploring more. And I think, you know, you look at the difference between 992 purchases and 531 sales, you know, there's some exploration where we as a business are vetting some new areas and making sure that the model works and that the opportunity for our clients are going to be consistent and successful for them before we go live to them. And that's, you know, that's areas kind of, we'll call it on the outskirts of downtown as we focus on the downtown redevelopment and areas that historically we hadn't explored as much. We are for our own portfolio and ultimately be an opportunity for our client base. But also it just leads, you know, it's just like any other, you know, marketing and sales pipeline. You've got to fill it with more leads, more opportunity, more inspections, and ultimately more offers that lead to more contracts. So it's just it's a volume-based pipeline. So you've got to be able to be willing to spend a little bit more on the marketing dollars, create a couple new avenues. I mean, we had TV for the first time where you and Greg did a TV ad on our acquisition side. We Buy Houses, JWB. That's generated a lot of buzz. Apparently, you know, you guys rocking out on the acquisition side for us too. So a little plug there. But, we just had to try different things.